What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our SEC channel. Going to give you a very early projected record for the Ole Miss Rebels. Keep in mind, this is not our official prediction. Simply a projection with the formula that we use. So let's jump right into it. Before we get to those 2024 projections, let's look back at the projections from this last season. You can see, of course, Ole Miss 10-2. Oh, they were projected just to go 7-5. With our formula, only 7-5. I predicted them to go 8-4. Athlon also had them at 8-4. The over-under was at 7.5. So this team definitely exceeded expectations by a lot, going 10-2 and winning a New Year's Six Bowl. I knew they had potential, and part of this was, some of the teams were not as good as we thought they were going to be. That win over LSU was huge for them. And again, won that game, a close game against Auburn, some other games in there that they were able to win and get them to that 10-2 mark. So definitely beat the projections last year. Let's see what the projections are this year. This is the schedule, and this is the scale that we use. If it's under 20 or over 80, those are games we're counting as wins or losses, games where I think the spread will be 17, 18 points or more. 20 to 29, 71 to 80, those are games where I think the spread will be 10 to 16 points in that range. 30 to 39, 61 to 70, those are games where I think the spread will be about a touchdown, 6, 7, 8, 9 points. And then your 50-50 games, those are the games where I think the spread will be about less than a touchdown, 6, so 1 to 5 points maybe in that range. And this is really not about the spreads. It's simply a formula that we use. We have different tiers that we put the teams in, and that's how we get the formula. So again, don't want to get too hung up on those spreads. But you've got Furman, Middle Tennessee, Wake Forest, and Georgia Southern, all games that are going to be in the green here. I think they're going to be favored by 17 plus in all 4 of these games. I know Wake Forest is on the road, but I still think Ole Miss is going to be a big-time favorite there. So all 4 of their non-conference games, again, Ole Miss, not guaranteed wins, but you would be very surprised. You'd be very surprised if they did not win all 4 of those games. And then we go to the games in the blue: Kentucky, South Carolina, Arkansas, Florida, and Mississippi State. Again, I think they're going to be double-digit favorites in all these games. I realize South Carolina, Arkansas, and Florida are on the road, but you look at where these programs are right now, Ole Miss is just way above them. Kentucky is a tier above those teams, but Ole Miss gets them at home. That's why they're in the blue. And Mississippi State, just because it's in the Egg Bowl, that one's in the blue as well. You never know in that rivalry. So these 5 games here are games that Ole Miss should win, but it wouldn't be a huge shock if they were to lose. Now, it would be a huge shock if they lost one of those first 4 games, but it wouldn't be a huge shock if they, you couldn't survive on the road at South Carolina or Florida or even Arkansas. But you would expect Ole Miss to win those games. They're going to be favored, again, by, I think, double digits in all 5 of those games. And then you've got Oklahoma. So Oklahoma is a game where I think Ole Miss will be favored, but maybe only by about a touchdown, 7 or 8 points. It is at home. Oklahoma is expected to be pretty good. So I've got Oklahoma as a Tier 2 team right now. Ole Miss is a Tier 1 team. That could change as we go through the offseason. Again, these are not predictions, and I'll have a lot more info on these teams when I do my actual predictions. But yeah, it feels like Ole Miss should be a better team than Oklahoma, at least by a little bit, and the game's at home, so that's why they're favored there, in my opinion, by about a touchdown. And then you've got LSU and Georgia. These are your 50-50 games. These are the games that I think could really go either way. But I'll tell you what, if Ole Miss is able to win all 10 of these games that they're going to be favored in, if they don't beat LSU and Georgia, it may not matter. They might still get to the SEC championship, and even if they don't, they're going to make the college football playoff at 10-2. I would be shocked if they didn't. So 2 games that could decide potentially just how highly ranked this Ole Miss team is at the end of the year. And LSU and Georgia, again, like I said earlier, these are going to be the toughest games of the season. So the projection for Ole Miss actually is 9-3. And you can say, how 9-3 if they're favored in 10 games? Well, it's just the odds here. So it's Kentucky, South Carolina, Arkansas, Florida, Mississippi State. If you average all those games out, you're going to have one of those games where they're probably going to lose. It's, if you're favored by about 10 to 14 points and you have that many games, the odds would say you're probably going to slip up somewhere, and then you lose 1 or 2 with LSU, Oklahoma, and Georgia. And if you're wondering, the projection was actually 9.4, so they were very close to being at 10 wins. So they were literally 0.1 percentage points away from being projected at 10-2. So that they're going to be as high as you can get at 9-3. Remember, Georgia and Alabama were also projected at 9-3. That doesn't mean that's where I'm going to predict them, but it's just where they wound up with this formula. And so Ole Miss 9-3, they beat those projections last year. Can they do it again this year? We shall see. Give me your comments and your projections here early on the Ole Miss Rebels down in the comments below.